You're asleep. No locked door. No weapon in reach. No one standing guard. Somewhere close, something with claws and a working nose is deciding whether you're dinner. Now picture Grog in that exact spot, 40,000 years ago, except Grog isn't just asleep. Grog is snoring loud enough to wake the dead, and the whole tribe has opinions about it. They call it the sound of an animal that has already given up. They tease him constantly. If a leopard ever wanders into camp at night, Grog will be the first one dragged off mid-snore, before anyone even notices he's gone. Grog laughs along when they say it. Quietly though, he believes them. And tonight, for the first time, he's about to find out if they're right. It's late. The fire has burned down to a thin orange line. Grog hears something move just past the tree line. Slow, deliberate, way too quiet for a rabbit. His whole body goes rigid, except for the snoring, which keeps going without his permission. A shape steps into the moonlight. It's a leopard. It stops 3 meters away, lifts its nose, and stares directly at the loudest, most defenseless human in the entire group. So why doesn't it just attack? In this story, we're going to find out what real predators actually do when they run into sleeping, snoring, completely unguarded humans. We'll find out why it has almost nothing to do with courage. And we'll see why the answer is never just one simple reason. It's a stack of small, strange advantages that Grog has no idea he's even using. You might think a predator looks at a sleeping human and sees an easy meal. Soft, slow, unarmed, basically a snack with a pulse. But actually, that's not what most predators see at all. Leopards, hyenas, and lions that stumble onto a group of sleeping humans tend to slow down, circle, sniff, and hesitate instead of charging straight in. Grog's tribe isn't lucky that night. They're just confusing. But the real problem started the moment the noises stopped making sense. The first thing working against the leopard is pattern. Real predators are pattern hunters. They specialize in catching animals that move the way prey is supposed to move. Steady breathing, predictable footsteps, a clean line of retreat. Grog offers none of that. He snores, stops, mutters something about mammoth fat, rolls over, and snores again at a completely different volume. It sounds ridiculous, but to a leopard's brain, unpredictable noise reads as unknown, and unknown is expensive. What happens to a predator that attacks something it doesn't understand? The second thing is the smell, and it's not a clean, single smell. One sleeping human has a scent a leopard can read like a menu. 8 sleeping humans, packed close, breathing on each other, sweating into the same patch of dirt, create something closer to a fog than a target. Wolves, hyenas, and big cats all rely on isolating a single scent trail from a herd before committing to a chase. It's the same reason a lion almost never charges straight into the thick of a buffalo herd. Grog's tribe, snoring in a pile, is accidentally doing the exact same thing. Is the smell of one terrified body really worse than the smell of 10 confusing ones? The third thing is the sound itself. Field researchers who've played recorded noises to wild predators in African reserves found something almost backwards. Lions and leopards fled from the sound of a calm human voice far more often, and far faster, than they fled from the roar of a rival lion. Not a scream. Not a war cry. Just a voice. Grog's snoring isn't a war cry either, but it's loud, human, and constant. And constant human noise is exactly the kind of thing that has trained generations of predators to back away first and ask questions never. The fourth thing is simple math. A leopard that attacks one human risks a kick, a thrown rock, a spear, or 6 other humans waking up furious in half a second. Predators are not brave by nature. They are efficient. They almost always prefer the option with the least chance of getting hurt. And this is where the story stops being just Grog's problem, because every one of these advantages depends on the same fragile condition: the group staying a group. If the fire dies out completely and stays dead for hours, the smoke stops masking the smell, and the camp goes back to smelling like exactly what it is. If someone wanders off alone to relieve themselves and gets too far from the noise and the crowd, they stop being part of the confusing fog and start being a single, simple, readable target. If someone is sick, exhausted, or too young to make much noise at all, they break the pattern in the worst possible way, by being quiet exactly when quiet is dangerous. Embarrassing snoring is one thing. A tribe that stops trusting its own watch rotation is another. And a lone, silent, separated sleeper at the edge of camp is the version of this story that doesn't end with a leopard simply walking away. Honestly, this didn't always work, and it definitely wasn't always safe. There are well-documented cases of big cats dragging isolated, unprotected people from their sleeping spots in the middle of the night, almost always when the group's defenses had already broken down. The system has a real failure mode. It just isn't the failure mode the tribe expected when they laughed at Grog's snoring. So why would any predator evolve to back off from something this confusing instead of just learning to push through it? One small habit of staying loud, smelly, and clustered together created a tiny survival edge. The humans who instinctively slept in noisy, scent-heavy piles near a fire got eaten less often than the ones who wandered off to sleep in peaceful, quiet solitude. The groups that did this better simply lived longer, on average, generation after generation. And slowly, without anyone planning it, sleep in a loud pile near the fire stopped being a personal habit and became culture, passed down the same way fear of the dark is passed down, without a single lecture ever being given. Today you have locked doors, alarm systems, and motion sensor lights that do the job Grog's tribe used to do with noise and numbers. But your brain still runs a surprising amount of the old software. Ever notice how a house feels eerier the second it goes completely silent at night? Or how a single isolated camper, alone in the woods, somehow feels more exposed than 10 people crammed into one tent, even with the exact same odds on paper? That's not superstition. That's Grog's strategy, still quietly running in the background of a species that thinks it left the forest behind. It turns out the predator outside Grog's camp was never deciding whether humans were weak. It was deciding whether humans were worth the risk, and a loud, smelly, unpredictable pile of bodies kept answering no for thousands of generations. So picture yourself back in that bed, asleep, no locked door, no weapon in reach. The truth is, you were never really the easy target in that story. You were the confusing, expensive, faintly terrifying problem the predator decided wasn't worth solving tonight. But if you think a leopard backing away from some snoring was strange, wait until you find out what ancient humans actually did when a sick member of the tribe started coughing in the middle of the night, with no doctor, no medicine, and a hungry forest listening to every single sound.